massive congratulations to the Dallas Mavericks for making it to the finals. The Celtics are there too. Sorry, I had to, man.
I love it. Put that hater hat on early.
Yes.
Turn it around backwards.
Yes. So we are obviously going to talk NBA Finals in this episode, but we're going to say that for the meat of the episode. We do have some warm-up jumpers we want to start with. And Kevin, I wanted to start it off with a player A versus player B comparison. And then I want to see if you can guess who these players are. You obviously have the rundown of the show that we're going to talk about, so you might have a semi-idea of the direction I'm trying to go here.
Okay.
Let me give you player one.
Okay.
Player A played 77 games last season, averaged 17.9 points per game, a little over 3 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists per game, half a block, averages 3-point percentage around 38%, effective field goal of 55%, had a box plus minus of -0.4, had a VORP of 0.9. Player B played 79 games, points at 19.1, total rebounds at 4.5, assists at a little over 5, steals a little less than 1, field goal percentage at 44%, 3-point percentage at 37, effective field goal at 53%, box plus minus at -0.7, and a VORP of 0.9. Who would you prefer to have in that situation? And who do you think those two are?
Run the last two advanced numbers for me in player B again one more time.
Player B advanced numbers, box plus minus is -0.7. And VORP is 0.9. So player A and player B have the same VORP.
These are astoundingly close, dude. I got to give you credit. These are really, really low. I mean, my initial reaction, like the counting stats on player B are a little bit better.
Yep.
But the advanced numbers being, I mean, they're both negative on the box plus minus front. The VORP is barely above average. And I'm starting to slowly, we don't need to go down this hole, but I've kind of converted more to a BPM believer than a VORP believer anyway.
Yep. So player B's box plus minus is a little bit worse. They're both negative. But it's a 0.7 compared to a 0.4. Negative 0.7 to a negative 0.4.
These counting stats are a little higher. Like I know the points were a little bit
counting stats are higher for player B. Percentages are higher for player A.
God, oh my man!
Except for field goal. Field goal percentage is higher for player B.
This is a good comparison, Justice. Like as close to a push as you can get. I feel like. I guess I'm going to go with A off the efficiency then. Okay. But this is I'm truly kind of at a toss up here. I mean, both being negative, it's not exactly good in either sense. So
I think the players' names would surprise you.
I mean, I'm thinking one is Klay.
Yep.
And one is I don't think it's not Paul George. Paul George, I feel like was a little higher.
Paul George is higher. Paul George is higher. No, player A with the percentages is Klay Thompson.
Okay.
Player B that has the more points, rebounds, assists, but similar VORP and box plus minus, Kobe White.
Wow. Okay. I like that. I would have never got that in a zillion years, but you know what? That's a good one. I mean, look, Maxey won the award, obviously, and probably took the bigger leap into stardom, but you know, White with Chicago had a great leap. I mean, he finished second in that overall voting.
And finally got the recognition that he should have in the playoffs, it felt like or in the play-in whenever the Bulls were there. Like you did feel like, oh wow, Kobe White dropped a 40+ point play-in tournament game. Like
it's just tough because the Bulls have been largely like unserious in their direction. And so when they have stories like that, they probably don't get as much shine because we kind of know what the overall narrative around the Bulls is. So
and I guess my point with that is it's two very different feels around both players. And I understand there is an age difference.
Two very different ages too.
Yes. So there is a little bit of that. But, you know, two players that have very similar stats, and in Klay's defense means he's declining, and in Kobe's defense means he's inclining, right? Like both of them are on two very different trajectories. They're just very similar right now. Obviously, Klay Thompson is the one that we're going to focus in on here because he and the contract negotiations with the Golden State Warriors apparently slowing up, which could potentially show a sign of the end of the big three for Golden State Warriors with
Yeah.
Klay and Draymond. And honestly, I guess if I'm the Warriors, if there's a way to do it, maybe I'm doing it with both. Like, I'm just ripping the Band-Aid off and both are gone. However you end up doing that or try to approach that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, this shows for how low people are feeling, I guess, about Klay, he's still really good.
Yeah, I think the thing with Klay is that people don't want to max him, and I think that's where the low comes in, is because he's definitely taken a step back on the defensive end, and part of that is due to injuries, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's just had a few now over the years, specifically really in the last 4 or 5, that have, taken a step out of his athleticism. Like, he just is an older player at this point. He's still a great shooter, and what do we say about shooting all the time? You can't teach shooting. Like,
Yep.
you don't exactly lose the touch there. The problem too, I think with Klay specifically and his price is just when you look at Golden State situationally and where, not Klay, but Steve Kerr has said that he would love to keep Klay here for life. I believe that Steph wants to keep him around. I believe that Steph wants to keep Dre around, but you're going well into the second apron if you're bringing Klay back on a max contract at this point.
Yeah.
And look, did you see anything about the Warriors last year that said, let's go into a second apron? Like, we know what the legacy is. They have nothing else to prove on that front, but you also just kind of got to be realistic around when it's over. And if you're trying to get one more with Steph, who is still by all means a superstar and one of the best players in the NBA, I don't know that maxing out that aging core is the best way to do that, as hard as that is to say with how important Klay and Dre have been to this franchise.
I agree. I was going to say you don't want to waste Steph's talent with keeping a core together. It kind of makes me feel a little bit like the Clippers when it was like 2 seasons too long together. Like, maybe you should have let Jordan go to the Mavs instead of locking him in his house and convincing him to come back. Like, maybe you should have let that be the end. Or maybe even before that should have been the end now in hindsight. But to that, I guess my point is not like Klay still has value to other teams. So you're going to get a good return for whatever that is now. And like you said, if you max him or you give him a new contract, whatever that looks like, and then try to move it down the line, if it's getting worse, then obviously your return's going to get worse. So you might as well get what you can for him now. And to that, like we said, a similar player, stat wise, different trajectory, however you want to compare it. But like, if you could find a way to get a Kobe White or something like that, that essentially just replaces Klay with the numbers, but is younger. And I guess like defensively similar box plus minuses, by the way, in case you were wondering. But there are options out there. There are players out there like that you could try to go get.
Yeah, I think with Klay, it's going to be the question of, do you have a team that has a lot of just resources that will overpay for his shooting, that will overpay for we're kind of good now and he would maybe take us up a next level? The teams like that are the Oklahoma Cities of the world.
Yep.
Orlando has been a team that's been mentioned, and Orlando makes a ton of sense, honestly.
Would you okay, because I know we're going to get into this with the next like 3 players we talk about. Sixers, should they consider it?
No, absolutely not. No, I'd be furious.
Okay.
No,
okay.
We don't need him. We don't need we don't need a guard who's declining and can't play defense. Like, why I think it works in Orlando is Orlando needs shooting desperately.
They do.
And Orlando has a ton of defense. Like, if there's one thing the Orlando Magic can do this year, it was defend. And so I think that's where you can afford to make up. And it's not like Klay's exactly a cone on the other end.
Essentially,
I don't want to say it's completely fallen off. He's just not like Klay was one of the best perimeter defenders in the league at one point. I don't think he's that anymore.
So essentially, just go to NBA.com, look up stats, and go look at defensive box plus minus for teams, and go to the top 5 and say these 5 should go for Klay probably.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm wondering who those are, by the way. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, I mean, Orlando, I think, when Orlando has the money, and that's same with OKC. Like, OKC has the money.
Yeah.
You talk about all the picks they have, you can afford, if you're Oklahoma City, to front load that contract, kind of bet on his next 2 years, and then have it like go off a little bit. But I think the playoffs show that they could use an extra shooter here a little bit.
So Defensive box plus minus in the league for last season. Orlando Magic, number 1. OKC, number 2. You already talked about it. Boston, number 3. We're going to talk about them later.
It's not going to be Boston.
No. Pelicans, number 4.
I don't know what the Pelicans are going to do, but I don't think signing Klay Thompson's the answer.
They might have the hold on, let me confirm. They do. They have the worst offensive rating in the league. I think that's
the Pelicans got to figure out what they're going to do with Brandon Ingram. I don't think they.
Oh wait, no. Sorry. This is playoffs. Hold on. Let me get this right. Okay, there we go. Timberwolves number 1 defense. I was wondering why I didn't see them up there. Timberwolves number 1 defense. Boston number 2. Orlando Magic, OKC, Miami Heat number 5 is interesting, but again, we're going to talk about Jimmy Butler and whatever the Miami Heat are trying to do. Pelicans are number 6.
Well, Miami doesn't have the money either. That's the biggest thing with this. It's like Klay is going to, if he doesn't get a max, he's going to demand a lot of money. And that's where, again, if you're Orlando and you're OKC, you can front load these and overpay for Klay and just bet on him being, give me a good 18 a game, knock down 4 to 5 3-pointers on an ideal night and call it. Because then you can make up on the other end. And again, front load it because you don't have to pay all your guys just yet. You'll have to pay them later on down the road. The other teams, Minnesota, Boston, it's not going to be any of them. Like there's no money, there's no need.
Right. Something that's interesting, at least in the top 10 defensive teams in the league. Knicks are on there. That could be interesting. Cavs are on there. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Depending on what they want to do this offseason. And obviously Donovan Mitchell an option. The Knicks, they're going to have some players that are getting paid from these playoffs. So I don't know what you end up doing there or if you want to retain that, but
and you don't need you're keeping OG, like you got Jalen Brunson. Like I don't need Klay Thompson on that team.
Get a year of healthy OG too.
The one that was interesting, I thought, was and Sam and Mick from The Athletic had this report when the Warriors got eliminated way back. It was Dallas. He said Dallas was a surprise team to watch, but now Dallas is in the finals. I'm like, am I really about to go chase Klay Thompson when my core is just in the finals, potentially winning it this year? Like, I know Mark Cuban likes those names and wants to always just get as many people around Luka as possible, but it's just spending money there doesn't seem to make sense. The Mavericks, if anything, have learned that they won around the margins this time around. It's like you got your 2 guys, you went around the margins. Like, why would you go chase a name right now? You don't really need to.
And surprisingly, actually, Dallas is in the top 10 offensive rated teams for the season this year.
I don't think offensive. That's not surprising.
Well, I guess it is.
The second half they torched.
I know.
We'll talk about this, and again, I don't want to get too far ahead of it because look.
Well, that's what I
actually thought Minnesota was winning this series, and that's why I don't want to get too far ahead of it. Like a few pods ago, I said I thought Denver, Minnesota was the finals, and then listen, Dallas had a great second half of the season. I thought there were ways they could have won this series and clearly did, but we probably undersold how good the second half of the season was for the Dallas Mavericks.
Agreed. I think my main beef with their offense is it's so much ISO and so much 3-pointers. Like it's so boring to watch. I hate it.
I really don't want to cut you off because I want to save this for finals talk. And I don't disagree at all. Like it is stylistically not. Again, we'll get there in a little bit.
It's such a okay. Yes, sorry. We'll wait.
The main other names, of course, are going around besides Klay. There's all the LeBron talk, and that's from Rich Paul slipping the other night. Like Rich Paul, I forget what broadcast he was on, but he said, "Hey, LeBron's going to be a free agent next year." Of course, that's got everybody doing Bronny speculation. We talked a little bit about that last week. Phoenix and the Lakers are apparently the only team that he's granted workouts for. The Lakers obviously makes sense. Phoenix, I think, makes absolutely no sense and would be hilarious if LeBron went to Phoenix, but I get why Phoenix would try to lure him.
I saw ESPN did a mock draft where they actually had the Warriors taking Bronny at 52, which would also be a immediate, well, maybe LeBron's going there comment.
LeBron, Steph, hey, the arch rivals turned
teammates. But yeah, a lot of LeBron James talk. I know I saw an article from the Sixers side that said
that's who I want the most. I want LeBron. LeBron's the best out of this fit for me, but look, it's just not going to happen. So I don't even want to really get my hopes up.
No, I agree. And obviously the other two that we'll talk about down the line, specifically for the Sixers, Paul George and Jimmy Butler. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're like, where do you think is best for LeBron? Like, is the Cavs thing a potential too?
I think the Cavs thing is always a potential because I think the draw of home is always, you just can never rule that out. I don't think
Sure.
he's going back to Cleveland, but if they bring Donovan Mitchell back, you keep one of the big men. We'll see what their core does as well. Obviously, you got to make a decision on what you're going to do with Darius Garland, but yeah, I never rule the appeal of home out. I would
Well,
never
maybe
rule.
some of those players. Well, and I guess if he's a free agent, it doesn't matter. But like, if you're,
I think he's
you can
probably
use some
going
of those
back to
players.
LA. Like, I think he's probably staying with the Lakers. I still think playing with
Hardball.
Anthony Davis is a great decision. Like, there just isn't really.
Oh, that being said, because you just made me realize it, that news came out today or yesterday as well. The Pelicans are deferring the first round pick to
Yeah,
2025.
stop jumping on my who's balling, who's falling, bro. We're
Oh,
gonna get into that. Jeez, oh
sorry.
man. Listen, I get you try to tease a little bit, but don't completely steal my thunder here.
Well, I guess the point is the Lakers do have 3
Yes,
first-round picks to work with. The
and could take
17th,
Ronnie.
yeah, and could take him there, but also they what I think this is what the Athletic pointed out. They have the 2029 and the 2031 picks that are available for a trade. So you really have 3 first-round picks that you can be using. And like you kind of said it makes sense from the Pelican side of things because like if the draft's not as strong as everybody's saying, wait till next year, see where you're at.
Like the Phoenix thing is the other one that gets buzzing, and with Kevin Durant and him and LeBron's friendship, like that makes a lot of sense. But unless LeBron is going to take the veteran minimum and go in there, because we know Phoenix doesn't have any money, like they need
Yeah,
to
where's
fill
your
out the
money at?
depth. And it's like I don't think getting LeBron, like yes, that makes that big four a lot more potent. Like I'm not going to lie, their ceiling is a little bit higher, but they still kind of have the same problems they had last year.
No
Like I
doubt.
don't look at Phoenix versus the Lakers and go, that's it. He goes right
Well,
there. They're going to win the title.
Well, with their new coach and the chemistry they have with Grayson Allen too, it's really a big 5.
I swear I'm not trying to be a homer here. And it's not going to happen. Like the Sixers fit. If you're going to leave, come to Philly and play with Maxey and Embiid. Like that to me makes more sense from a basketball X's and O's perspective than anything. And the Sixers have the money to do
They
it.
do. 64 mil, right? That they have to work with this year or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, that kind of segues us into the next one because the Sixers have obviously, among other teams with Paul George and with mainly Paul George, with Jimmy Butler as well. Because it looks like him and Miami are headed for a divorce. That's not really official yet either, but it sure seems that way with some of these Pat Riley pressers, with Jimmy talking about how he wants max money. Look, I may be in a very vocal minority here, but I don't want either of these guys. And I love Jimmy Butler to death, but Jimmy Butler is 35 and doesn't stay on the floor anymore. And maxing Jimmy at 35 when the Sixers could have maxed him at 29
is a bad look.
Kind of feels like the most Sixers move of all time. Paul George, again, it's just like you deal with the injury risks, and it's another guy who just like, look, I'm jaded, but he's kind of shrunk in the playoffs. Like I just watched Harden shrink in the playoffs. I've seen Embiid kind of shrink in the playoffs. Like, can I get somebody who delivers? Like Jimmy at least delivers in the playoffs, but again, it's older at this point. I want the Sixers to use that $64 million and go sign depth like every other good team has done this year. Like, look what Dallas is doing. Look at what Boston's done. You have your 2 stars in Maxey and Embiid. Go out and sign quality rotation players. Get a good backup center like Andre Drummond. Get some wings. Like, don't push your assets, which you finally recouped a little bit, into 3rd star chasing. And that's just what I'm worried about what Morey is doing here.
Yeah.
I think the Paul George fit from an X's and O's perspective does make a ton of sense. But again, it's just like Paul George is on the wrong side of his prime, and we're going to max his money. And if one of them goes down, the window's shot. And it's just like they don't have many windows to keep. Like they've already ruined the first half of Embiid's career. Like, can we try to salvage the second half of a little bit? Like they're always trying to hit the home run. Play small ball. Like build the team right and look at the teams that are winning right now and stop trying to chase.
So I would also say, surprisingly, and we talked about this off mic, the injury concerns are really with both players, Jimmy and Paul George.
Definitely.
This year, Paul George played more than Jimmy by like 14 games. Jimmy played 60, Paul George played 74. Now, Paul George this season has better points per game, steals per game, blocks per game, free throw percentage, effective field goal percentage. Jimmy's got him from the rebounds, assists, field goal, 3-point, box plus minus, and VORP. Win share wise was actually kind of surprising, is where you kind of see a difference between the players. Cause for a while I was kind of more on the Paul George. Like I'd rather George over Jimmy, similar to what you were saying. Like we've already ran the Jimmy the Jimmy card down the road, and we derailed that situation and traded him. So, like, I don't kind of want to go back. It feels like a hindsight 2020 move.
Right.
But Jimmy's win shares is a 9.1 from last season, where Paul George's, again, was only a 7.3 or was a 7.3. And I know player, a lot of stuff goes into that. But I think that because the players are so similar, but the win shares are different, that's where you kind of see a little bit of a pull away in terms of if you have to choose from one of these players. Because again, they're VORP, similar, box plus minus, similar. Win shares is where he starts pulling away. So I guess if you're telling me I have to pick one of these two, I guess I want to say Paul George, but the advanced stats are telling me Jimmy. And I guess you could argue the chemistry that's already there between Jimmy and Embiid might help the situation. But yes, I agree with you. I'd rather go get depth, go get shooters, go get people that can play and back up and, do what you got to do there.
Well, it's like, look, we all love stories in the
Mhm.
NBA, right? Like, we all love those narratives. We all love those perfect, like, clean and finish the lines. And like, I think that's what it would be with Jimmy. Is it'd be like the ultimate come home,
Yep.
get the title, finish what realistically should have been finished in 2019. But like most of the time, it doesn't work like that. And I'm with you
Right.
because I think Jimmy has nothing to prove in playoff time. Like, we know he can deliver when it matters, and that's what the appeal is that just, man, Jimmy is old, he gets hurt, but man, when he delivers, he delivers. Like,
Yeah.
we just have seen it multiple times now.
Yeah.
With Paul George, there's maybe not that as much, but I trust Paul George to stay on the floor more at this point. Like, that really, and when you look at what's going wrong with the Clippers, like, it's largely been more of Kawhi's inability to stay on the floor than anything.
Well, and so to that, the Clippers did come out either this morning or yesterday and say that they're determined to keep Paul George because they obviously just gave Harden, or no, they gave Kawhi the money. They're going to try to keep Paul George and Harden. They obviously want to run it back.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, that could also be a thing. Like, if the Clippers just make it more worth it for Paul George to stay, then there we go. That's the
Yeah.
answer.
It feels like they've drawn they're kind of hoping on that hometown discount. It feels like it doesn't seem like they're going to give him a full 4-year max, but it does feel like they give him the 3.
Well, wasn't that
Um,
a little bit of what Kawhi did too? The idea was Kawhi did that extension so that it could free up some potential money
yeah,
to keep these guys. So I would also feel some kind like, again, at this point we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. So like,
yeah.
what does it really matter to them? Maybe, but like, if I'm Kawhi, I do feel some kind of way if I took like a sort of discount and then you didn't come back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Clippers should absolutely be trying to bring him back. Like, I think if you're
Yeah,
listen, I know Kawhi, it's been a bummer because he's gotten hurt. So it's really like kind of left this whole window on just, it's felt incomplete. Like, if I
yeah,
was going to grade it more than anything. But you have to keep Paul George there if you're trying to stay competitive. Like, the reality is the window just closes if Paul
yeah.
George walks out the door. They don't have the assets just from the SGA trade to initially bring them both in to basically recoup quickly like that. Um, the other teams that I think maybe keep an eye on from the Paul George front, Orlando, I think is just in any of these conversations, honestly, like he would
Yeah.
fill a need there. They've got a lot of money. If they want to take the leap. I think Houston could kind of be like that too, more with Paul George than on a Klay Thompson guard perspective. Like, they need forwards, and they've got a few young players there. Like, maybe if you want to add a vet into that mix, they were pretty competitive, almost making the play-in game. Like, you started to see their young guys start to carry the weight a little bit, and so I think maybe you go, hey, Paul George gets us into the playoffs next year, gets this core
That
some meaningful,
experience. Yeah.
some meaningful experience, and I think that helps out. The other one I see mentioned a lot is the Knicks. And if the Knicks decide to move on from Julius Randle, the problem there is you just have to sign and trade. And that's kind of, again, it's just an added factor. Like, I think the Knicks moving on from Julius Randle is probably not too much of a surprise given how much he's paid and how well you saw them play last season without him, even into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Just a way to free up some cap space. But the Knicks certainly have plenty of players if they want to make a move like that. I also think the Knicks have just other issues at the top of their mind right now. Like, I think you're really like watching the Hartenstein market, for example, and see how much he's getting paid and whether you can bring him back. They've obviously got to get an OG deal done as well. So I can't, like, they're on my, I'm going to watch it with Paul George, but I'm not as confident I am in
They have
some of these
some
other
they have
teams.
some
Like,
internal things they got to figure out too. Yeah.
so I guess, like, I'm going to I think Klay will go to Orlando. I'm gonna just kind of I'm gonna put the psychic hat on, and I don't got a turban or anything over here, or a crystal ball in front of me. But I think Klay will go to Orlando. I think LeBron probably goes back to the Lakers. I think Paul George goes to Philly, and I'm not fully enticed about that, but I do think it probably happens. And then I think at that point, who's the other one? Jimmy. Dude, Jimmy's the weirdest one, man. I don't know.
Because where does he go if everybody else? New York?
But it's the same kind of deal with Paul George. It's like all the money issues that New York has there. Like they'd still have to sign and trade, and they definitely could if he leaves. Again, yeah, maybe Orlando gets in.
On both would be interesting.
I mean, it'd be interesting, but I don't know if they do that. Again, Dallas is always mentioned in these lists too, but it's like Dallas doesn't really like they made the finals right now. I don't know that they're going to shake it up. I don't really know beyond that. I still am inclined to think he goes back to Miami and they figure something out, but that's a great question. And maybe Philly gets weird and gets in the mix, but that if they decide to pivot and go for Jimmy, then Paul George. But again, you got to trade for Jimmy too. Like there is a little more of an element around that. So either way,
the only players that I think Dallas should go for in terms of players is maybe they should. Well, Paul George might work there because he's in the top 5 for ISO ball percentage.
You were really going to kill his ISO ball in a second.
It pisses me off. It pisses me off.
Welcome, everybody, to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Justin Cousart.
Hold on. I got it. Okay. You ever wake up in the middle of the night and think about a girl you like or starting to like and just sit on the edge of your bed and say, damn, I want her.
This sounds like an old Kevin Durant tweet. Is this Katie from back then? Okay. Yeah, no, listen, Katie, I feel you. We've been there, dude. I don't know what year this is from, but if this is my 20s, I feel you.
So this is like a collision of worlds for me right now.
Okay.
Because the reason this is back up is on earlier in the season, I guess it would have been maybe right before the playoffs started. Devin Booker quote tweeted it and said, "Mood."
Hey, listen, Book, I feel you, bro. Like we've all been there.
I mean, you gotta assume he's talking about Kylie Jenner, right? Or Kendall Jenner.
Hasn't it been years since they've been together?
Okay, but then she started hooking up with Bad Bunny, dude, and then his tweet comes out. Yo, it's subtweet. Dude, that's exactly what this is.
At first, now it's been months now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This tweet came out a few months ago.
Oh, I mean, maybe back then, I guess. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, Book, if that's the one you're thinking about, I get it, but you gotta move on, bud. Like, look at how the rest of them have played out. You gotta weigh the bargain there.
My favorite is because I didn't do this beforehand. You scroll down, everybody's just responding with gifs of Kendall Jenner.
Oh, dude. Well, it's like
the internet's so savage, man.
You saw the Kendall starting 5 t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
It's nice. That team can ball a little bit. Like it was like it's Book, it's Ben, it's
Ben
Blake Griffin is on that list. I don't know if Ben's a basketball player anymore, but
yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think Ben is.
Did you see the Ben Simmons workout photos are coming out already? We're at that part of the cycle again. Ben's working out this summer.
He went to, what was it, the Met Gala? And I was like, why?
Yeah, he did. I love it. And he looked, bro, that's the crazy part is like, he looked great. He looked like he belonged and everything, but it just cracks me up. Ben Simmons wants to do everything except play basketball at this point. It's crazy.
I just don't. He had to have known that there would be backlash for that, and obviously,
I think everyone was laughing. We're like,
yeah.
Where's Ben Simmons been?
Well, my thinking too is like he wore a pretty big coat, man. Like, is his back gonna be okay? He was carrying that heavy clock thing. Like, that's some weight distribution on that back.
The outfit looked good. Well, I'm not gonna hate on that outfit.
I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying, if you got a bad back, you don't want a lot of weight on there. You know what I mean? Like, if I got a bad back, I'm not gonna put my kid on my shoulders.
Yeah, Ben Simmons have a bad back. We all have bad backs. We're
I do.
Now. I feel you.
We all have bad backs.
Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us.
And we are on YouTube, video versions of the podcast. If you would like to check them out, just search Driving Dish NBA like you would in the podcast platform. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got video versions that you can catch there as well.
Now, word from our sponsors.
So, ISO ball finals between Boston and the Mavericks.
I'm going to make the episode name is going to be ISO themed. I haven't figured it out yet, but it's going to be ISO themed in some regard.
ISO ball, man. For real. It's ISO and threes. That is my prediction for the finals. The Mavericks averaged 1.056 points per possession on ISO plays, which is second best in the league. Only behind the Clippers. Shout out Paul George. And then the Celtics are right behind them. And so that's two of the three teams, obviously. Two of those are in the finals. 33 players had at least 200 ISO possessions this season. Luka, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown are on that list. And then on top of that, you want to talk about threes. Boston led the league in threes, made 16.5 this season. Dallas was third, only behind Golden State in between the two. And the Celtics were also first in three-point attempts, while Dallas was second. So leads me to my ISO and threes finals game. Whatever the 3-point percentages or 3-point made total for the game, just bet the over. Every game, just bet the over. Yeah, unless it's one of those weird things where they both just equal each other out and nobody makes threes. But that's where I think this is going.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I mean, I feel like the storylines for Dallas are kind of what they've been throughout these playoffs, right? It's like, look, you know what Luka's given you, and you know what Kyrie's given you, what they've done this whole playoffs. Like, they've been they're close to 60 points a game, basically. You're getting out of the two of them. And so the question was going to be, who else is going to step up?
Right.
And can you stop the other guys? PJ Washington's been excellent this entire playoff run, especially beyond the arc. He's really stepped up for them. He's a guy to watch. The Daniel Gaffords of the world, the Derek Lively's of the world. And obviously it's huge for him having all this time off because he got that foot to the head in the Western Conference Finals. So that'll give him some time.
Yep.
The other story, and this is for both these teams, obviously, we'll get into Porzingis, a massive return from Boston coming back in a second, but Dallas getting a little bit of reinforcement as well with bringing Maxi Kleber back into the lineup. He had sprained shoulder pretty early in the playoffs. Like, he was a pretty key rotation piece for them throughout the rest of the season. And for him to come back now in finals, like, it just does give them those weapons. Derek Jones Jr.'s had phenomenal moments. They just need those guys to step up consistently. Like, Luka and Kyrie, though, give you so much like wiggle room. It can, like, when they can take over these games, like, especially Luka right now, like, good luck. You're just not really stopping him. I mean, even that video I'm cracking up of Michael Finley taking the beer away the other night. Like, listen, these boys are locked in. That whole franchise is locked in. They've really, really turned it on in the second half of the season. And we've talked about that, but ever since the trade deadline, and the draft as well a little bit. Drafting Derek Lively helps us a lot. But, I mean, when you look at the moves they made around the trade deadline to fill out this roster, and really with the pressure that was on Dallas's front office, I mean, you look at this team last year where they're blowing a playoff spot because they can't defend anyone, even after going to trade Kyrie Irving. And it's at a point where you're getting crap for tanking to that game and to get a better draft position. Oh, by the way, that pick got them Derek Lively. Maybe tanking was always the right decision, but we don't need to get into that either. The point is, though, they were under some pressure for the first time where it's like, look, and especially it doesn't help either when Jalen Brunson leaves and just goes and balls out in New York the way he has. I think there was a lot on Dallas's front office where it's like, look, you've got this generational superstar in Luka Doncic. Don't blow it.
Like, well, and I would even say there was a little bit of like, what do we feel about Luka starting to creep up at the beginning of the season after last season? There was some like, well, where are we on him? And I feel like that's totally been, that door's been completely slammed shut and locked.
I think he's more aligned. I mean, he's inserted himself into the best player in the NBA conversation. I still think most people are a Jokic with that right now, but it's like when you look at the top 2, 3, 4 players in the league, he's got to be right there. Like, he's in that, like, with Jokic and Giannis and Steph to an extent as well, like, of just the best guys in the league when healthy. I mean, he's really elevated his game during this run. And I don't even blame Luka, honestly. I think any pressure that's been on Luka, it's been around the roster construction for me. I've wanted to see what he can do with a maximized roster. And I think that's what we're finally getting here. Like, he is everything he was advertised to be. And so I think that's going to be a lot of fun. The Celtics, like, listen, I have two schools of thought on this, and I don't really know where to go. The one is Boston has steamrolled everybody all year. they've basically had a cakewalk to the finals with and have handled their business. They have completely dominated clutch situations in this Indy series, late in Cleveland. Like they have just found different ways to win games. And oh, by the way, they're getting Porzingis back, which adds a whole different layer to that lineup. Like when
I
he's been
have
healthy, they've been the best starting five in the NBA.
I had a stat. Where is it? Okay, so so what is it? The Porzingis, Tatum, Brown, White, Drew Holiday lineup played 623 minutes. They averaged 120.3 points per 100 possessions and only allowed 109. But that same lineup where you flip Al Horford in, they were offensively still huge, 118 and a half, but the defense is where it slows up. It's 115.8 per 100 possessions. So that shows that's Porzingis right there. Like that is that move. And it's funny because Porzingis also was on the Mavs at one point. You got Kyrie who was on the Celtics at one point. So you get a little bit of like rivalry, fan base hate going both ways. I saw a video. Allegedly, Kyrie Irving called into a Boston radio station with a fake name and defended Kyrie Irving. I still don't know if it was actually him or not, but that's so funny. If I were a star player, I would do that all the time. I would do that all the time. Like if I were
I'm
on
not in Philly. I'm not arguing with WIP.
no, yeah, you don't want that smoke. But if I'm on Philly, right? Like
I don't want that smoke because it's too stupid. I'm not arguing with those made up points. WIP tried to trade AJ Brown the entire offseason.
Yeah. But that's what I mean is like if I'm I don't know, if I'm Maxey and I'm going to play Miami, you better bet I'm calling into a Miami station being like, y'all better be worried about Maxey. I hear he's one of the best players in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like
fair delivery, you do that, but
well, that's fair. You gotta talk your talk.
You're right though about the KP effect on defense. I do think that's really important. And I mean, Al gives some credit. He's had some just incredible games against Indy, against that game against Cleveland where he hit 7 3-pointers. Like he has really dialed back the clock for some of these as a 38-year-old.
He has like 2 games every postseason every year that are like, holy moly, how is he still doing this?
Yeah. But you're right. Like they're attacking him on defense, and he is like that's where the age is showing. Like guys are getting downhill on him. Look, and all that is true, and so that part of me should like an initial me like lean towards Boston. They have been the best team all year. I have never seen a team like Boston play with their food the way they have in this playoff run. Like losing a game to Miami without Jimmy, losing a game to Cleveland where it's like basically Donovan Mitchell versus the world. That Indy series, you could make a compelling argument that they could be down 3-1 in that series right now. Now, that's where it's tough. Did they play great in the clutch situations, or did they just not mess up and Indy just didn't have enough talent to get over the hump? Where it's like Dallas has Luka and Kyrie in clutch situations. Like that is better than anything you've ever faced in the Eastern Conference so far. Like there is like, look, injuries are a part of the game. Being a number 1 seed allows you these luxuries. Like that's the purpose of winning all those games in the regular season. But yeah, Jimmy got hurt. The Sixers got knocked out. Not that it would have mattered, but the Sixers got knocked out. The Knicks depth all got hurt. Indy lost Howley after game 2. Like those are all valid complaints. Now, and the Celtics counter to that is we haven't had Porzingis since round 1. And it's like, but
okay.
I mean, he is the key here. Barkley said it the other night on Inside the NBA. If Porzingis isn't healthy, I think Dallas smokes Boston in this series. I think they beat him in like 5 type deal. It's that lopsided, but bringing KP back in, that's huge. And I think that's what kind of moves it towards Boston a little bit for me. It's the grossest sentence I've ever said in my life, but I think Boston is probably winning the finals in 6 or 7. And I hate it. I hate it so much.
Currently, for the betting people, Tatum is the only one that is a minus in terms of money you can bet on winning the finals MVP. Luka is still plus like 200 something. So kind of shows you the way people are thinking it's going to go at this point. Yeah, man, I just think it's going to be a lot of it rides on Porzingis, not to keep harping on that, but a lot rides on Porzingis. But I also don't want to discredit the, I guess, veteranship, the players that have been here before. I know Tatum and Jalen have been here too, but Kyrie Irving has this experience, and I think that's going to be a lot of that's going to be an interesting storyline to watch and see if Kyrie's able to kind of rally the troops and kind of get everybody, uh, calm down, get those jitters out and all that stuff. I did see, I think Kendrick Perkins put it out there that people might be uh, having to backtrack on their thoughts on Kyrie Irving's abilities and skills, because I feel like we were starting to say, okay, it's on a decline, it's whatever, he's bouncing from team to team, whatever. Like,
I get it, but I also hate this narrative because it's like this Kyrie redemption story. And no, Kyrie's redemption story is because he's kind of been a little bit. Look, there's been a lot of off the court stuff. We don't need to relitigate all that. And I appreciate what Kyrie has stayed out of all that this past year. Like, there hasn't been any of that, and it's been focused on the play. And I think that's what people are talking about with Kyrie. Like, we're talking about his basketball. Like, no one has ever doubted how supremely gifted Kyrie Irving is. Like, to me, I've always said, I think in natural skill set, I think he's one of the most skilled players to ever play in the NBA.
mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of the on-court product, yeah, I also think it's been up and down a little bit just because of, how Brooklyn was. Brooklyn was so close to getting it done, but never got it done. The tenure in Boston didn't work out, really. And so I think, and even the way that Cleveland ended it and blew up, like, eventually that catches up to you here a little bit. But yeah, I definitely think he's really turned the narrative around this season in that sense, where it's like, yeah, no, we're talking about his excellence on the basketball court. Like, he has been crucial for this Dallas team and should get a lot of credit in that. Like, the locker room has nothing but good things to say about him. Like, there's a lot of, reasons to believe in that. And they're peaking right now. Like, that to me is the best Dallas argument. Is it's like, look, we can get into, you've been the best all year. Dallas is playing their best basketball right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran a gauntlet to get here. Like, you beat OKC, you beat the Clippers.
Their path was significantly harder than the Celtics. Yes.
It's also tough though, because again, I think with the Celtics, you just have such a margin for error. Like, and that's part of them getting all that depth is it's like, look, if Tatum stinks, you've got Jaylen Brown, you've got Derek White, you've got Drew Holiday, you've got Al Horford, like somebody that can step up. I'm a little worried about the Celtics bench for sure, but I just don't really think it matters with how good that starting five has been. And Tatum has had bad nights in these playoffs, but it hasn't really mattered as much. Jaylen Brown has had off nights in these playoffs where it hasn't mattered as much. Drew Holiday, Derek White, like, run through the lineup. They've all had an off night, but someone else has been able to pick them up. There's also a little bit of the urgency as well. Al Horford, especially. Like, Al Horford's 38. He was in the finals 2 years ago. Like, there aren't many more shots that are coming at this. And I think if Boston loses the finals this year, you do start to ask if this core ever gets it done as assembled, because it's like, look, it's been 7 years now of them being on the fence. Like, this is the ultimate, we're really trying to get it off now. And even against Golden State, like, I think there was an argument that they were the better team against Golden State, but Steph just got him. Like, I don't know. It's a big series for them narrative wise. Obviously for Tatum, it can really, I think, put him, he's already been in the elite category, but I don't think everyone believes in Tatum. And it's weird. It's a weird mental thing to work through. Like, it kind of sounds like, I feel like I'm saying conflicting things out of my mouth here, left and right, but Boston again just has that ability to just maintain among, like, they have that margin for error. Like, if Luka or Kyrie is off, I don't think they can get bailed out necessarily. We're like, Boston, I think, can bail out a lot. They've also been really good on the road too, which helps. I haven't talked about that at all, but they've been quite good on the road.
If you had to name the top 3 players in this series, who are you naming?
Luka, Tatum, and oh man, and that's where it gets a little tough.
That's why I asked 3.
I'm leaning Kyrie over Jalen. I think Kyrie is a little more consistent than Jalen is. There's a gap, and the Celtics have, if Kyrie is 2, the Celtics then have like 3, 4, 5, 6 at least, because I mean, the next best Maverick after that probably is PJ Washington, but like, I'm not putting PJ over KP, Drew Holiday, Derek White. I think you kind of maybe put him around Al Horford, but we're talking about 7 or 8 at that point. So yeah, and I mean, even Kyrie and Jalen, like, you can make a very compelling Jalen argument is 3 in this series. I do think Luka is 1. I think Tatum is 2. And then after that, though,
Do what you want. Yeah. Well, and
The
that's
coaching
the
matchup,
only
I think, is even too. We didn't really talk about that a ton. Both these coaches have been criticized.
Yes.
Both have had their good moments too in these playoffs. And so I think but I don't think there's a strong, like, I'm kind of average on both these coaches. So like I don't think there's a strong advantage or disadvantage there either way.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Last little stat I had here on Luka, which I thought was kind of interesting, if I can find it real quick, is he obviously led the league in scoring and is the first person to lead the league in scoring and go into the finals since Curry in 2016, which is kind of wild if you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, well, and hopefully Luka,
We
2016
know
was
how.
the 1 year it didn't turn out that well for Curry.
I
So
was gonna
hopefully,
say, we all know
like,
what happened that year.
yeah, I don't know if he wants a repeat of that one. But all
No.
right, who's balling, who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like start with the good before the bad. I have 2 Ballins this week, and Justin has 2 Fallin. So I'm going to alternate here. We kind of hit the one at first, but Ballin for me is the Lakers, who will pick in this draft, number 17 overall. The Pelicans have deferred. They own the Lakers' first round pick. They have deferred until 2025, probably sensing that this draft is not very good. And so I guess like it is a little fallen in that sense for the Lakers. But again, going back to those Bronning conversations, you never know what the Lakers could do there. They have 3 first round picks now. So,
Well, and I guess the question is if the Lakers do really like implode and don't make the playoffs again, it's like that pick could be even higher next year.
yeah.
So, Pelicans, it's like it's a win-win. You get the pick regardless next year. Could be higher, or it's not, but it's in a draft that's a little more stacked, at least according to what I was already reading from The Athletic. So, you'll see where that lands.
Yeah. And I think, again, we'll see them just having that true kind of definition of what it is. And if you trade that pick, that,
Yep.
there's just that'll help them in negotiations with having a little more finality there. All right. Who is fallen number 1 for you this week?
Fallen number 1 sits with the finals talk that we just had, because Grant Williams was actually on both teams.
Grant.
What a loss. What an L.
It's brutal.
That's gotta hurt, man.
It's brutal. And it's not as much because here's the thing, like he made the finals with Boston, and I don't think maybe it's a surprise that Boston is there again. But he was literally on Dallas the first half of the season, and then he was one of the guys they traded with, and then instantly got better and took off. Like they moved him to Charlotte and got PJ, and the rest is history. Like this team Grant was, they didn't like him in the locker room. Like, and again, Grant has gone to Charlotte. Like he went over there and kind of did well. Like he was what they needed. He added a little bit of that leadership to their locker room, but man, he's a vocal guy, and it wasn't resounding in Dallas. And it's pretty brutal to see your old team and the team they traded you to, who then promptly got rid of you and went right to the finals.
Yeah. I want to say, I thought there was one, I think it was Tyler Hero commented on PJ Washington's Instagram live being like, damn, talk about coming out the mud, leaving Charlotte, going to Dallas, and now you're in the finals. So yeah, it's a bummer, man. It's I guess that's a pill you got to swallow that probably doesn't feel that great.
Yeah, it's what are you gonna do? Like, there's nothing you can do about it. But
at
yeah,
the end of the day, you're making money. Yeah,
bit of a hit to the ego for sure, without a doubt.
Yes.
All right, Ballin number 2 for me this week is Dwight Howard, who is now a part owner of the Taiwan Mustangs, where he has been playing, of course, and trying to recruit every single player on earth to come over and play in Taiwan.
Maybe that's where LeBron will go.
Yeah. But I appreciate Dwight. Like, hey,
an entrepreneur.
If you really want to double down on this Taiwan thing, you're trying to get everybody over there. Like now you're a part owner. You're kind of putting your money where your mouth is a little bit. But no, he shout out to Dwight. Obviously, he hasn't played in the NBA since 2021 and 2022. Will be, of course, a first round Hall of Famer, or first ballot Hall of Famer, I should say, one day. Yeah, and we'll see if somebody finally joins him one day in Taiwan.
I was trying to find, because I know he's in some other stuff. Like I think he owns a farm. I think Dwight Howard owns a farm. He's a little business owner over here.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, either way, I think I at least I thought he was. Yes, okay, here it is. A 700-acre farm in, oh my, what is that? Oglethorpe?
Oh,
OG. Is that
bro,
Ogle?
that's way better than it. You nailed it. What do you wait a
Is that
minute?
it?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Dude.
Oglethorpe, Georgia. Okay, from
Yeah.
Georgia.
Actually, I
Okay.
feel like I know where that is. I think that's sort of near Jacksonville a little bit.
Oh, is it? Hold on, I'm actually pulling it up on the maps right now. I can tell you, Oglethorpe. The first picture is a bonfire because, of course, there is. No, it's right outside. Actually, really close to the Masters. It's right outside of Augusta.
Oh,
Um,
that's
Athens. So it's
unfortunate.
like right by Athens.
Oh, wait, is it? Wait, are we looking at the same Oglethorpe?
That it says Crawford. Yeah, at least it's got this whole little area. Watson Mill Bridge State Park.
Oh, because I Googled Oglethorpe and it's down by like Macon, which is like way
Yeah,
down
that would be
south.
way. Hold on. All right, hold on. Let me see. No, yeah, this is telling me Oglethorpe County.
Okay. Hey, listen,
It's right outside of Athens. I don't know. Let
I,
me.
I, I hope it's better. It's outside of Athens than where it is otherwise, because you're kind of in the middle of
Dwight
nowhere
Howard
where it is
Farm. I
otherwise.
mean, if it's as close as you just said it was, I'll go visit his farm. I'll
I
go
had a
drive there
buddy.
tonight.
I
Howard Family Farms. Here we go. Hold on, I can tell you. This is right outside of Marietta, Atlanta. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's
okay.
up by Atlanta. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right.
There you
Hey,
go.
good for Dwight.
Opens
There
at
you go.
opens at 12, closes at or opens at 9, closes at wait, they're only open for like their hours of operation are Saturday and Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.
I
You're open
love
for
that.
like four,
I love it.
4 hours.
No, I love it. Come in, get your goods, and get out.
Get
It's a
out. Don't
weekend.
stay long. We don't want you here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't exactly. They're probably good sitting on Dwight's money and NBA
Right.
earnings for a little bit. So, all right, who is fallen number 2 for you this week?
So Fallen number 2 for me is a little more niche. And I will admit these videos crack me up. I think they're hilarious. But it's the AI generated fake post game comment videos that are going viral. And the ones I've seen are from Luka. And it looks like they're saying what they're saying, but
Mhm.
they're not, obviously. Because Luka says some things in there that Luka wouldn't say in a press conference, probably would have gotten fined and all that. I think they're hilarious. I do feel like it's a gray area because they're not actually saying it, and the way it looks like real
Yeah.
official. I could see potential for people to not realize it's fake. Now, in the comments of the videos, it says this is AI generated, but how many people are actually clicking on the comments to check that? I feel like that's fallen a little bit. Maybe the NBA needs to find a way to put an end to that because that feels a little odd. And I don't want to be like the get off my lawn guy because again, I do think the videos are hilarious. I just feel like it looks a little too real and could be a problem.
Yeah, that's basically a lot of what the AI hesitation is, right? Is
Yeah.
like it's undoubtedly extremely cool, and I believe you can make some hilarious videos doing this, but it's just kind of like, hey, also this isn't real.
Right,
Like,
like Luka, like a video of Luka being like, "Oh, Jason Tatum, I'm not worried about him. He can't guard me. He should go back to eating some snacks in kindergarten or something." It's just Luka wouldn't say that, and it's hilarious, and that's why it's hilarious. But it's like, man, it looks too real, and I don't know. There's what was it? Scarlett Johansson just got the one company to stop using a voice because it sounded a little too much like hers. Like at some point, like maybe Luca's got a problem with it if they're using his voice for other stuff. Like, I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, you have a right of personality in some cases, and
Yeah.
like I'm not about to go fully law school on this, but like there was a case with Bette Midler back in the day where
Mm,
she explicitly turned down a a like ad campaign with Ford, right? Like Ford
sure.
was going to do she was going to sing a song. It was I forget what car it was for, but so they literally hired someone who sounded exactly like her. I mean,
Yeah.
like a carbon copy. It was a real person. It wasn't AI, but it was a blatant carbon copy and rip off.
Yeah.
And they did find that, like, yo, you can't completely like mimic somebody like that.
Can't completely yeah.
Listen, AI is going to shake up all sorts of stuff. Like, we
It
could do a
wasn't like
whole
it wasn't
summer
like a
podcast on that.
it wasn't Ford's like, hey, you got to check out the Midler seat in our trucks.
No, yeah,
Oh,
it wasn't crazy like it was just part of the ad campaign, but
okay.
the
Um
Hitler seat is crazy.
Sorry. So while we are talking about disappointing and sad things, let's talk about Indy and Minnesota and their
Yeah.
level of despair. I guess on a scale of 1 to 100 for Indy and for Minnesota, where do you put them 100 being the most despair level you could possibly be, 0 being not worried about it at all.
I think you're both on the lower end, as crazy as that sounds with losing the conference finals. I think Indy would have been a borderline 0 for me until they lost the way they did. Like, this was brutal. Like, you had game 1, an all-time collapse. Game 2 was brutal. Or not game 2. Game 2 is the one I think Boston won convincingly, but like games 3 and 4, like you had late leads multiple times. You just blew it to a just inexplicable combination of turnovers, not calling timeouts, bad personnel decisions. Like, it was extremely poorly coached by Rick Carlisle. And, obviously, we all thought Boston was going to win this series. And once Hallie went down in game 2, it really kind of just put the clamps on it. But even in game 3 and game 4, like, Indy's depth stepped up. Like, Pascal Siakam was great this whole series, too. So I think that's their one big question for the offseason, of course, is you got to get him re-signed and brought back in. But Indy made it. Indy, I think they went from like what would have been a 10 and we're just happy to be here to like a 35, because it's like it's one of the worst series of late game execution I've ever seen. And that's really saying something when I've seen the Sixers over the past like 8 years.
The NBA in general should be so disappointed and upset that your conference finals, only the longest one went 5 games.
Yeah.
Like, you had a sweep. You almost had 2 sweeps. You almost didn't have, like, you were texting me about it. You almost didn't have basketball for like a whole week and a half because of that and scheduling problems. Like, the conference finals should not be anything less than 5-6 games. Like, they're the 4 best teams in the league that year. Arguably, I'll put that in asterisks, arguably 4 of the best teams in the league. You are the last 4 out here, and you got swept. That's painful, man. And, Pacers, obviously, it comes down to their defensive problems that we've known from the whole season. They were the offensive juggernaut, but no defense. So maybe you can address that a little bit. But damn, man, like, you were there for so many of those games, and you just couldn't put the cap on it. You couldn't close the lid.
Yeah. You had a chance.
Here we are.
Like, you had a chance to at least push this series and make it competitive. And like, look, the longer this goes, weird things can happen. Like, guys get hurt. Look, ask Indy about how series can change last series against New York and how quickly that kind of, flipped on its head a little bit. That's a brutal missed opportunity. There's no way around it.
It does feel a little bit like, again, if you didn't take how those 4 games against the Celtics played, it did feel like they were riding the super high of beating the number 2 seed Knicks, that they just came in with no, I don't want to say the words energy, but no expectation. Like, that was the high of the season. And then the Celtics kind of closed it off. But then you look at the games and it was like, no, these were really close games. Yeah. You should have won 3 of them. And, here we are.
At least 1 or 2 of them and have extended the series and kept it going. Like, that's the thing, is it didn't
like you said,
sweep.
Yeah, then like you said, you get to game 6, you get to game 7. That's March Madness now. Any game, it's just one game. It's just one game. Yep. So, I was thoroughly bummed on both ends, Timberwolves and Pacers, and that they lost the way that they did. Like, you essentially both got swept. I mean, Dallas lost 1 game to the Timberwolves.
Yeah, they have a gentleman's sweep.
But damn, dude.
Yeah, Minnesota, and maybe them. I mean, there's 2 things in hindsight. Maybe one is they were really built to beat Denver, and they were. They had the personnel to defend Jokic.
There was talk about that. Yeah.
Talk about that, saying like, look, they got the perfect roster to counter what we do, and I think that showed there. I'm surprised because only the way it played out, because I thought it was such a resilient effort for them to come back and win that game 6 and game 7 against Denver. That to me was that's your seasoning. Like, if you can pass that test.
That was it. Now you're ready to go win the whole thing now.
Yeah. And like we said, Dallas has been a great team. I thought this was going to be a competitive series, but I did think Minnesota was going to win.
I told you, anybody out of Dallas, I thought Nuggets Timberwolves were going to win the whole thing, regardless of who was where and what. Like, against honestly, looking at it, Timberwolves probably would have been better for the Thunder to win that matchup of the conference semifinals.
Yeah, I think they would have done better with the Thunder than they would have in Dallas too. But Yeah, it's tough because they just, it did almost feel like they just got into the headlights. It got a little brighter. I think Anthony Edwards just had a pretty inefficient series overall for as excellent as he was these playoffs. I think Cat had a series where you throw the tape out. Gobert was getting attacked left and right. Like it just, the game two was the heartbreaker. Like when Luka comes out and he hits that shot,
Oh
and with
yeah.
the Timberwolves having a chance to kind of, just even
Not
that
even
up,
that.
go back game three, like that's when it feels like the life got took out of the Timberwolves a little
Not
bit.
even that. That last game, Luka had at the end of the first quarter, Luka had 20 and the Timberwolves
Yeah,
team had 19. It's like, oh,
they obliterated them. Like
it's over.
Dallas just
Yeah,
came out. I
it's
mean, it reminded me of what Dallas did to Phoenix those last 2 years. Those just complete lopsided elimination games where it's like, man, they just got smoked in the end. It's a little more of a mixed bag for Minnesota just because, again, they haven't been here before. You recognize a chance. Like, this is one of the best teams in franchise history. The positive sign is like, look, you got Anthony Edwards. Like, the sky is the limit for Anthony Edwards. Like, he really looks like he can be the superstar in the league for the long time. To come out here, win 2 playoff rounds, get to the conference finals, beat the defending champs, get that experience. I love the clip of him talking about how we're not going on inside the NBA because of how personal we feel like Draymond has been to Cat and Rudy. I love the leadership there. There's a lot to be excited about with some of those guys. Naz Reid winning 6th man of the year. The downside of Minnesota is, again, you don't know what these opportunities look like. Mike Conley's getting older. Gobert still, like, for as much as he rewrote the narrative, they were going at him at will in the conference finals. And it kind of makes you, like, when you're defensive player of the year, it's like when he isn't giving you a lot of offense, those questions start to creep back in.
Do you think, just on the Gobert thing, do you think this is the last year he gets defensive player with Wemby and Chet and some of the other guys,
well,
obviously?
Wemby is going to totally shut down defensive player of the year, I think, for the next decade.
Pretty much, right?
I mean, he had a really strong argument to win it this year alone. So
how many? Oh, this could be a fun one that we should bank it and come back in 10, 15 years. How many defensive player awards does Wemby have in 2034?
5. I'm
Okay.
going to say 5. And that's a
Okay.
lot. Like,
Yeah,
Gobert's
that's
got
10
4.
years. Yeah.
And Gobert's basically dominated that award for the
Yeah.
past few years. I think Wemby's probably going to win it as soon as next year.
Yeah,
And
there's a real good chance of that.
like,
Yeah.
we've already seen what he's done to, like, I watched Wemby shut down a 3-on-1 fast break this year. Like,
Yeah.
good luck once
Yeah.
he starts, again, now he's got a full off season to work out and get in NBA shape and do all that stuff. But yeah, I've got Minnesota a little higher on the despair list than Indy. I think both these teams have questions in the offseason. Indy's probably got a bigger one with Siakam. You have to get that done. But yeah, like these opportunities are rare. I mean, listen, okay, not to go back to the Sixers, but it's like, buddy, I've been waiting since 01 to get back to the conference finals. Like, you don't know when these times are going to come. And I think in the NBA, when we started this podcast and those early years, so much of it was about dynasties, right?
Yep.
And you look now, and it's for the first time since the 70s. Like, we're gonna have 6 different champions. Like, going back to the Raptors in 19, you got the Raptors winning, you got the Bucks winning, you got the Lakers winning in the bubble, you've got the Warriors winning, you've got the Nuggets winning. Like, we're gonna have a 6th, whether it's Dallas, whether it's Boston, like, we're gonna have a 6 different champion in 6 years. It makes you think in terms of more of an NFL sense, right? Like, NFL, if you've got a good team, you go, because it's just like, it may not click like that the next year, and you might be able to pull the Super Bowl off with it being a one tournament thing or with an elimination situation. NBA with 7-game series has been a lot more difficult, but you do wonder, are these borderline teams, if that causes people to push in more? And I hope it does. I like the parity. I think it's been really entertaining. It's been good for the league. And look, we'll have a pod between now and then, but in a few weeks, we're going to see whether Boston's got ring 18 or whether Dallas has ring number 2. So,
and I want to ask my last question between the two despair teams. Who needs to make a bigger move this offseason? Or do they not need to?
I don't think either do. The bigger move, again, not to say it a third time, but it's like, in terms of money, it's going to be Siakam. Indy's got to bring Siakam back. You traded for him this year. Like, I think with him and Hallie, that's how you kind of turn it up and go further, build the roster out that way. I think the Miles Turner rumors have kind of died down, honestly. It seems like they're pretty happy with him there. Like, that would have been a kind of a good caliber player. Maybe I thought they'd move, but I don't really think it's anything too crazy for either.
Okay. All right.
Towns would be the biggest if they decided to, like, really shake things up and Minnesota wanted to move on from Cat. That would be that'd be an earth-shattering trade because you get a lot back for that, but I don't think we're anywhere near there yet.
There was a video from the TNT halftime show guys. I think it was before the last game where I think it was Chuck was like, "You gotta come out hot, you gotta be angry, you gotta be doing this, that," and the camera shoots to Cat, who looks like he's sleeping on the court. I was just like, dude. I was like, they just stay trolling these guys. Like, they just stay being goofballs. And obviously, we've already talked about the potential loss of that halftime show down the line, so we don't need to reopen that.
No comment. Oh, we'll start mourning next season once it's official. But before we get out of here, should we get another round of Immaculate Grid in?
Let's do it. I will pull it up now. It is a relatively easier one because we really only have to find team connections for 2.
Oh man, it's heavy stats on that, huh?
Big heavy stat day, yeah. Big heavy stat day.
Oh yeah, okay, Jesus, we're gonna blow through this.
Yeah.
All right. So all right, for those who are, and again, watch all the Immaculate Grids on YouTube. Just search Driving Dish NBA podcast. For the podcast listeners, across the top are columns from left to right. You got the Boston Celtics, you've got 10,000 career rebounds, and you got all NBA. From top to bottom, you have the Sixers in your rows. You got the Sixers, the Spurs, and 20,000 career points. So yeah, a lot of stat stuff for sure. Some of these are a little more exclusive than others in terms of clubs, but yeah, we should kind of roll through this pretty quickly.
Just off the rip, the Celtics 76ers, Drew Holiday obviously works.
Yep.
I believe one of the Morris brothers works.
Marcus
Horford. Evan Turner works.
Evan Turner does work.
I actually think Nick Stauskas works, which is
I
such
think
a
he does too. Wow, dude, that's
random.
cool. Wow, I wouldn't have got Stauskas. That was good.
I mean, take your pick at that point. I don't know. I feel like Holiday
and Horford are going to be the top 2 for sure.
Are the top 2. So I think like Nick Stauskas, freaking who else did I say? Evan Turner are probably our 2 to work from.
Yeah, because Marcus was on the Sixers this year and he wasn't really on the Celtics that long ago. And like Marcus played heavy minutes with the Celtics.
Right.
Stauskas is probably the lowest I can think of because he barely played for Boston. Like, I feel like he was barely on the roster. Like, the Sixers were the second team right away after the Kings. Like, people were taking a bet on Stauskas when he still was, kind of like had some upside.
Yeah.
I think Stauskas will be lower than Evan Turner. Evan Turner will be pretty low too, just because it's been a long time. But like Evan Turner was a number 2 overall pick,
and he played a lot for both teams. Like, he was there for a minute with both, I think.
Yeah, he had a full 2 or 3 years with Boston, I think.
And probably more than that with the Sixers, right?
Yeah, at least 3. They drafted him. I mean, he got traded the process year. They drafted him. It was the John Wall draft. So what was that, 2010, 2011?
Right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Dang,
what a time. Man. I was getting certified for lifeguarding my first summer when that lottery was. And I remember coming out and being pumped and being like, because I was excited about the Evan Turner pick, sincerely. Like, I liked
Evan Turner. I do like Evan Turner.
I wish it worked out. And
him and I DM'd for a while back in the day. Remember that?
I do actually now. Yeah.
He was trying to start a podcast. I was going to help him.
I for sure forget about it. Wow.
I think he was on the Sixers when that happened. He might have just been traded, but yeah. So, all right, let's go Nick Stauskas. He spells that N-I-C, right?
No, it's N-I-K.
Oh, N-I-K. I knew it was only 3, though.
Yeah.
Okay, there it is. Nick Stauskas. 0.6,
baby. Okay, I think Marcus would have been low too, low key. Evan, I think would have broke 1%, but not by much.
I think so
too. Pretty low.
Was Evan ever an all-star? Would he fit there?
No, dude. No way. No way.
Listen, I was trying to get froggy, okay? I was trying to get a little froggy.
Well, it's not even an all-star. It's all NBA. So it's even harder.
Oh, yeah, it's even harder. Okay.
Yeah, no, there's no planet. I don't think no, Evan Fournier wasn't on the Spurs. For Spurs and Celtics, and it's funny because I had the opposite. I don't think Marco Bellinelli was ever on the Celtics.
I want to say, well, Derek White. No, did Derek White play?
No, Derek White's the obvious one.
Derek
Yeah,
White's
no,
the
you're
obvious one.
Derek White's who they did the trade for.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like there's not a lot of players. What about not David West? There was a big man, white dude on the Spurs. His name was David something.
I'm trying to think.
David Lee? Does that sound right? David Lee?
David Lee was on the was he on the Spurs?
I think he played on the Celtics too.
He definitely played on the Celtics. I know he played for the Celtics for sure.
I think David Lee started. No, he wasn't start on. He was on the Spurs.
No,
dude.
David Lee was on the Knicks because that's when he was elite. David Lee won rookie of the year.
That's where I'm thinking of him from. Okay, yes.
Yeah, David Lee was he was an all-star, I think, at some point.
Ooh, if he was on the Spurs, that might be our all-star pick. That'd be crazy.
Well, no, it has to be all NBA. He will. I don't think.
Oh, right. All NBA. I keep thinking that. But David Lee was on the Spurs and the Celtics. I'm almost positive.
I think so too. He was definitely on the Celtics, and I'm pretty sure about the Spurs. That feels right at the end of his career. I'd be down for that.
You want to try David Lee?
Yeah, I mean Derek White is the obvious one, and
I know. Well, that's why I don't want to. I don't want to fumble it. It's so easy. Okay.
Yeah, 4%. Okay,
4%, baby. 4% is a lot higher than I thought maybe that would be.
All right, I'm going to pull that up just out of curiosity.
All right, so
in terms of he was on the 2012, 2013 All NBA team. Wow, I learned something. That was it wouldn't have counted. It has to be with the team. It has to be with the team.
Okay.
State. Don't worry. Yeah, you don't got to freak out. It was with Golden State. Yeah, so he was with the Knicks. He was the Golden State. He was an OG title member in Golden State. And then, Boston, and he played for Boston for 30 games in 2015, 2016, and he played his last season of his career with San Antonio. All right.
What a get. That was a good one.
No, it's a good one. I like that. Boston 20,000, you got a bunch of options. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Larry Bird. Those are the three I'm 100% about. Like it starts to get I mean, like Joe Johnson played for the Celtics, I think. And if that's honestly, that might be a good one. Because he for sure has 20,000 because we used them last week. And he definitely was on the Celtics very early in his career, and he may have been there late, but I'm talking about before he's even famous, he was on Boston type deal.
I'm down to give it a go.
He's got 20K. It's not a matter of I'm dude. I think that works.
You want to go Joe here?
No,
here.
Boston 20. No, bottom left.
Oh, Boston. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's 20K points because I think people don't associate him as a Celtic. Where I think there are other Shaq would work there too, but I think Shaq is more valuable to keep in the rebound category. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. So, all right, Joe.
Yeah, I'm cool with ISO Joe. Fits the ISO theme.
Yes, with 1%.
Okay. All right, that's good. All right. 10,000 rebounds for the Sixers. There's a few obvious ones. The main ones are Mutombo, Moses Malone, and Wilt Chamberlain, actually, too. I wasn't thinking of Wilt. Who's the other? And Barkley, dude. Charles Barkley. He's one of the best rebounders of all time. So at that point, it's more of which one do you associate with the Sixers the least?
Let me just ask this. Do we think Andre Drummond has 10K?
He might, honestly. He
or Dwight Howard.
Oh, Dwight's a good one.
Those two, you didn't mention both, and both might work for the Sixers.
Dwight for sure has 10K rebounds.
Yeah.
I am 100% positive that Dwight has 10K rebounds. And I would be down to do him because I think, again, he was only with Sixers for one season.
And again, off the people you listed, you didn't mention him. So
yeah. I think Drummond quietly does too, man. I
Drummond
think
would be less than Dwight, I think. Unless it's a bunch of young kids playing and they just guess because he's freaking Andre Drummond.
Yeah,
But
but like Drummond's just so weird. It's like, because you know what I mean? Like all these other guys are like bona fide Hall of Famers.
and
And then
Drummond's like
Andre Drummond is just like
Drummond.
not really, but he's quietly like one of the best rebounders ever.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's why he came to mind. He was the first person I thought of.
yeah, I'd be cool with Drummond if you want to do Drummond. Drummond and Dwight will have the lowest, I think.
All right. Drummond it is. Andre
Yeah,
Drummond
2%.
with
Okay.
2%. Do you think Dwight would work for no, he doesn't have 20, right? 20 points in all NBA? Because that would be low, dude.
20K points in all NBA. Well, I mean, he's undoubtedly all NBA.
That's what I mean. But
Yeah.
20K points, like
Dude,
nobody's going Dwight for 20K points if he has it.
I wish I felt better about it.
Okay. I mean, we have so many options. We don't have to get froggy on that one. It's just a thought. All right.
Like the all NBA 20K, I feel like I want to use as more of a scorer. It'd be if like I'd use him in the 20K, 10K rebounds thing.
Okay. Okay.
That one is a little more like it's I don't know.
Dwight there would be interesting too, but I also, if we're not confident, then let's not.
We can come back to it.
Yeah. All right. Spurs 10,000. Tim Duncan, obviously.
Yeah, Tim Duncan and David Robinson are the two.
Aldridge.
Oh, that's interesting.
Aldridge, was he all NBA too? That would be another one that would be probably a low.
He was definitely all NBA, but my problem is I don't think it was with them. He was with the Spurs.
Aldridge 10K rebounds would be interesting because he's definitely not the first maybe two you think of.
God, he's so like 10K is so many though. Like I'm trying to think of like.
I mean, we can keep it chalky if we want. We can just go Timmy.
David's chalkier than Tim. Or
well, yeah,
David
both.
might be lower than Tim is because did Tim have 20? Tim had to have had 20K points, right? Like, there's no doubt he had 20K points.
Probably, he had to. He had to.
I mean, you could do David and Tim for both. I mean, I think 20K, 10K has a lot of options.
Do you think Dirk would work for 10K rebounds, 20K points?
Dude, that's a good one. I'm so torn.
Because he definitely has 20K points, and he definitely would work for all NBA. And I feel like he played a while, but rebounds is tough, dude. I don't know if he's there.
Oh my goodness, dude, that's such a good one.
That'd be a fun one to it. Again, I'm not confident on it, so I'd rather fill it out and then come back.
I will say this: I'm more confident on that than I am in Dwight in 20K points. As crazy as that sounds.
Okay.
Dwight's peak was so high, but I worry about the end. Dirk was pretty consistent the whole way. Dirk, I worry more about the rebounds. Like I can see Dirk. Like Dirk's a big dude. I could see Dirk having 10K.
Well, he was down low a little bit there, so like you would think, but
do it. We got to
do it now.
Yeah, do it now.
Oh. Okay.
It's just we'll get the rest. Yes. Okay. Good one, Justin. That was really good.
Holy moly.
I would have never thought that in a zillion years. Dirk has
10K rebounds. Okay.
Dirk has 11,489 rebounds.
Wow. Okay. So a little bit more than that. Holy hell. All right. So then do we go David or Duncan?
David will be chalkier than Tim, or Tim will be chalkier than David is. I think David will have less. The other one that may not be associated with the Spurs as much, but I still think he'll be high just because who he is Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman works too. But Dennis Rodman also might be the best rebounder ever. So I feel like a lot of people, I mean, I know the Spurs aren't his primary team necessarily. So that's where maybe you could steal some points. Like, I don't know if it's between him or David Robinson, which would be lower. Tim will be number one, though, for sure.
So let's go. Let's go
Rodman, because we can use David Robinson for Spurs and all NBA if we want.
I like that. Dennis. There we go.
Dennis Rodman.
10%. Okay.
Yeah. So do you want to use David then for Spurs and all NBA?
We could. Do we have other? I mean, Kawhi,
George Gervin,
Tony Parker, Ginobili.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, I'm really on the fence about.
I don't know if he did it there.
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know if it'd be there with Portland. I feel like I'm leaning Portland.
It would be most likely with Portland if it happened. Or we know it happened. It most likely happened with Portland if we had to put money on it.
Ginobili's tough because I don't feel like Ginobili ever made a first team or anything like that, but I feel like he probably made third a few times.
Ginobili would be the one that would be probably the least guess out of our crew, unless we think Tim was used for the Rodman pick. Then
Tim is going to be high. Tim is going to be high everywhere. Like there's just no doubt about it. It's either I'm either cool with Ginobili or I think you just go with like George Gervin and go Boomer and think that people don't really know as much there.
What would you prefer?
You can go Ginobili. That's fine because I think Ginobili will be more borderline.
I think
he'll be on
4%.
4%. Okay.
Okay.
Ginobili made. Let's see. Ginobili only made All NBA twice.
Wow.
He made it in 2007, 2008, and he made it in 2010, 2011. Both were third team. So yeah, kind of definitely lower there. Okay. Sixers All NBA. Iverson, Barkley, Embiid. Maxey has not. Julius Erving has for sure. I'm pretty sure Moses Malone made All NBA the year we won the finals.
Mutombo?
Nah, I don't think he made All NBA. Not with us.
Who else? Elton Brand?
No, Elton definitely didn't. Good Lord, I wish.
I was gonna say Korver, but I already know.
You know what? No, never mind. Mutombo won Defensive Player of the Year with us, and so a part of me wants to be like then, but he was also way kind of out of his prime then.
Okay.
And he only played with us for half a year. He was on Atlanta that season when we traded for him.
None of the like random picks that we did made it when they were putting up like 16, 17 points a game as rookies, right?
No. Dude, honestly, bro, Ben Simmons works.
Oh, Ben. Let's do Ben.
Ben works. I'm so mad about
Ben's
it.
Ben's got to work.
Ben made All NBA team in it was either 2020 or 2019. It was
Let's do Ben. There's no way people are thinking Ben.
Ben will be on it. No, he's thinking Ben. Yeah.
4%. Yeah. 100%.
Dude, it will be one of the all-time, like, what on earth happened there? Like,
I know.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I'm looking at it now. Even the year after, bro, he got MVP votes. He was first team all. Like, what happened? We're out here going to the Met Gala and not NBA games. 20,000 points NBA. Yeah, I mean, how much time do you got? Like, this is the easiest one by far. It's like the easy answers are MJ and LeBron. Go through the list. Like Kevin Durant is there, Russell Westbrook is there, James Harden is there. Larry Bird is there. Magic Johnson is there. Charles Barkley is there. Name a good player that's a Hall of Famer, and you probably are close.
Blake Griffin.
I don't think Blake has 20, man. You think Blake has 20?
I don't think so. you said name a good player, and he's probably there.
No, this is good. If Blake had stayed healthy his whole career, I think he for sure would have been there.
Oh, let's do Paul George. Oh, not Paul George. Chris Paul.
Oh, interesting.
He's got to have 20, right?
No, I agree. I'm more just like, I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, how did he get there? Yeah, definitely. No, I'm with it. Chris Paul's definitely there.
Chris Paul's got to be there. He's like you wouldn't think about him here just because.
Like associate him with a point guard. So yeah, Chris Paul's definitely there though, for sure.
Chris Paul, point two, baby.
Good end. Yeah, good end. I saw that. That is, I mean, for what it's worth, I never would think of Chris Paul in that category.
That's what I mean. I didn't think people would.
All right, so let's scroll down. Let's see what our number one answers are. That was a great
8 options for. Hold on, we had 8 options for Spurs.
Oh, do you know what would have worked for Spurs for 10K? Powell would have worked.
Oh, Powell, that's a good call.
Let's scroll down though. Let's see our top answers.
Hold on. Yeah, sorry.
So for Celtics and Sixers, it would have been Al Horford over Drew Holiday, which is semi-surprising, but I guess Drew started his career with us, so it's been a long time. 10K rebounds for the Sixers is Moses Malone, and all NBA is Allen Iverson. For the Spurs and Celtics, Derek White, not really surprised there. Dude, David Robinson was the number one for 10K rebounds, so I'm actually glad we didn't go there because I guess more people were using Tim Duncan, who was the most common answer for Spurs.
As all NBA. Interesting.
yeah, not really surprised there either front. Celtics 20K points. The number one answer was Larry Bird. 20K points and 10K rebounds career was Shaq, and 20K points all NBA Michael Jordan. So
hold on, I wanna see something. 10K rebounds for the Spurs.
I mean, Robinson, Rodman,
Tony Parker works?
Tony Parker's got 10K rebounds?
So does Ginobili, apparently.
Good
Wait,
for them.
What?
Dude, good for them. I never in a zillion years.
This time, I don't think it's filtering it right though.
Hang on. Let me look at this.
There's no way. Hold on. I'm going to their totals. Hold on.
Are you sure you're not looking at assists?
No, because I just clicked on the link that.
Yeah, dude. Tony Parker has 4,000.
Yeah, 3,000. So okay. So this is messed up. It's not giving me the filter. So when I click on the show
answers,
answers,
give you 10,000 career rebounds, or
it just lists off a ton of players, but it's going by season. So I don't understand what link they're sending me to. I'm trying to figure that out now. Find single season matching criteria. I don't know. The link that they have, that Immaculate Grid or Basketball Reference is using for this one isn't right. It's not. They're not filtering it correct because it's just giving me a ton of players. So okay, all right. I was about to say there's no way they have 10K, but all right. So I'll get off my pedestal now.
Yeah.
16
anyway,
all NBA players for the Sixers.
I believe that a lot. I mean, dude, Ben, Embiid, Barkley, Iverson, Wilt,
Embiid,
Irving,
Iverson,
Moses.
Dikembe. Mutombo got it twice.
With the Sixers?
That's what it says. 2001, 2002, 2000 to 2001.
Oh, I know you got it with us. Okay. All right. Well, that's cool. That would have worked.
Barkley, Moses, Irving. Yeah.
All right. Let's recap our answers real quick.
Yep.
To go back. So for Sixers Celtics, Nick Stauskas. For Sixers 10K rebounds, Andre Drummond. For Sixers All NBA, Ben Simmons. For Spurs and Celtics, David Lee. For Spurs 10K rebounds, Dennis Rodman. For Spurs All NBA, Manu Ginobili. For Celtics 20K career points, Joe Johnson. Dirk Nowitzki for 20K career points and 10K career rebounds. And Chris Paul for 20K points and
what
All
a
NBA.
row. What a row at the bottom there.
We smoked this grid, dude. Our highest was 10% with Dennis Rodman. Like that. This is an all-time grid for us. Like I'm really.
Who could have been?
We brought it back.
The problem is I'm not gonna be able to find total rebounds.
We can worry about that later.
It's killing me. That's a
tomorrow problem. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review, good or bad. We will read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And you can hit us up on YouTube. Just search Drive and Dish NBA. We'll do video versions of the podcast, and you can obviously subscribe and get notifications to when new episodes are coming out there as well.